Arcane's fifth act is its best, but its most flawed. And the scene in particular I think highlights those flaws is in episode 6 between Caitlyn and Vi. Arcane has always been very fast paced and handled it extremely well, but a lot of parts in Act 5 felt sudden rather than just fast. All the developments make sense, don't get me wrong, but having Jinx suddenly see Isha as the light of her life after not really caring about her in Act 4, having Victor suddenly become some sort of god that can speak through people, and above all, Caitlyn and Vi suddenly teaming up again, despite all having good explanations, it did feel quite jarring at times, because Act 1 ended off with Caitlyn hitting Vi with her rifle, telling her that she's the same as the rest of them, that she has Jinx's blood in her veins who she obviously obsessively hates, leaving Vi behind in tears. And it just didn't feel quite right to me that the two immediately put that aside with no anger between them or even a mention of what happened before. And again, it does make sense that it did so, given the urgency of the situation that we're in, Caitlyn's doubts towards Ambessa, and what Caitlyn herself has been doing, and that it has been a while since their breakup as such. So I get that it all makes sense, but not only did it still feel off, I think that combined with everything else in this arc being so sudden, made it stand out even more, whereas by comparison, Jinx and Vi had that initial anger, right, with Vi lunging right at her neck and then their argument after that before they could start to reconcile a bit, with obviously the return of Vanda, making them want to put aside their differences. Even that could have maybe done with slightly longer, but it was still handled far better than Vi and Caitlyn for me, although I imagine Act 3 will revisit their relationship and all the things they put aside before. But on that note of Caitlyn, the phenomenal scene at the end of Act 1, where she takes her position as commander, didn't end up taking on as much weight as it could have. You know, it goes from her being this martial law dictator, taking a look at the city before turning her back on it as she hands herself, and by extension the city, over to Ambessa, believing it to be the best thing to do. And maybe because the act ended on this, it gave us more expectations for where it was leading than it maybe should have, but Act 4 just immediately jumps to her having doubts over it all. Again, all makes sense. It's been a while, and I can also see how this might have just been a spur of the moment thing that even later that day, she found herself being uncertain on, but it just feels so off. You know, that whole scene feels relatively pointless looking back. And I imagine the creators were more aware of this than anyone. So to be very clear, this isn't at all a criticism of them. I imagine they would have loved to explore Caitlyn's moral conundrums that she's faced with awful decisions and the consequences of them, or Vi's downward spiral into a screaming drinking pit fighter, or Jinx gradually warming to Isha and finding a reason to keep going in her. And they would have done a phenomenal job at all of those things, but their budget restricted them from doing so. And with regards to these scenes I mentioned, I really don't know what else they could have cut from the other parts of the show in order to make more time for them. They absolutely did the best possible job with the time for each episode they were allowed. And I do think with the first 4 acts setting everything up so well, it still worked pretty well, you know, and I know Arcane has always done this kind of super fast storytelling, letting the viewers fill in the gaps themselves instead of spelling it out for them. And that's why we love the show so much, right? It's probably my second favorite series of all time, but I just can't help but feel like Act 5, for the first time in Arcane, which has otherwise just been flawless from the start for me, did have a very slight issue. Although again, it's not at all the team's fault, nor did it take away from one of the greatest things I've ever seen. But let me know what you think below, and subscribe for more Arcane videos.